I love taking care of people and hosting people at home. So I hope my kids are social and also, like I hope they have friends and have good friends that can hang out and just even spend the night or just have dinner at my house, which many other people would be worried that would be imposing, but I would love that. I love that. That's something I wished I had as a kid growing up. So it'd be cool if all of those things aligned. For your ma, however, a light began to sparkle in her eyes. When she noticed you looking, she held your gaze. Hark, do you want to go? Yeah, so much. Ma wrapped both her arms around one of her wife's.
In that case?
I see. I think that would be all right, just this time. Really? Your mom sputtered. She clearly hadn't gotten to that page of the script. Mom got an encouraging pat on the top of her head for her troubles. She remained absolutely perplexed, mouth open, eyes wide. Mom could only process enough to realize that she'd become the odd mom out. I mean, if somebody else's parents wants to take my kids off my hands so I am free to do some other things, maybe I'm partial because at this point I have 2 toddlers and I'm like, if somebody's offering that I trust, and I do trust Mrs. Suarez, if somebody's offering that I trust to like watch my kids, I'd be like, heck yeah, take my kids, take them, heck yeah, thank you. She probably didn't know exactly why she was doing it, but Mom turned to look at you. Pack it up, Hark. You wouldn't want to keep them waiting. You snapped your gaze to Derek. He'd done the same. The 2 of you shared a matching look of astoundment. It was almost identical to the gesture her moms had made when Mrs. Suarez first accepted Derek's proposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Angel and Angel. Thanks, Mom. Yes! No way. No way. Thank you. You were at a loss for words. I'll be like, thank you. The deal was finalized with a crisp clap from Mrs. Suarez. Pamela is right. You should get what you'll need for the night. You're coming along for the ride. I'll help. I wonder what would happen if we said no. If we told Derek we didn't want to come. I don't know. Maybe we wouldn't even given us that choice. Neither of you gave them time to change their minds. You ran back to your room and began to pack in a whirlwind. As you shoved clothes into a backpack, Derek hovered into the center of the room. He fidgeted with his energy that was going unused. Can you get me a spare toothbrush? There's extra for traveling in the hall closet.
I'm on it.
Gotcha. He was gone in a flash. You only took the very basics. You made sure to get the basics and something you personally couldn't go without. A portable gaming console, yes. Pencils and paper, your favorite stuffed animal, a book, a bag of makeup, a ball, your camera, an MP3 player with headphones. I definitely want a camera to like remember the moment, but honestly, a portable gaming console. Especially if something that me and Derek can play. A portable gaming console. Derek returned in a sprint, a toothbrush held over his head in triumph. With a grin, you threw it into the overnight bag. That was enough to get you by for a short trip. You zipped it up, hooked it around your shoulders, and went out the door. You checked off the final requirements to leave. For the second time in a matter of minutes, you rushed down your stairs in a flurry of steps with Derek close enough that you almost stumbled into him. At the bottom, you came to stand in front of the mom group. We're ready!
Good night.
Perfect. Good luck, kiddos. Have a great time. Gently, rhythmically, Ma ran over her hand over your hair. All her precious hopes for your safety and happiness ebbed from her fingertips into you.
Take care.
Good night, Hark. Take care. Night. See you. Mrs. Suarez and Derek gave their own goodbyes, and afterwards they returned to the minivan that brought them here. And then, almost unbelievably, you slid into the vehicle with them to go on the impromptu sleepover. The chill of the squeaky leather against your hands and the persistent smell of animal cracker crumbs kept you grounded in reality. Derek bounced against the seat back like a kid on a roller coaster and clicked his belt into place for the ride back to his condo. You strapped in too. You never could have imagined the evening taking you down this literal and metaphorical road, but you were eager to find out what happened next. The sun continued to sink as Derek's mom drove down the highway. When you arrived at your destination, so had night. The condo complex was nicely lit and well maintained. The 3 of you easily made your way up to Derek's house and went right in. Slipping her set of jangling keys onto a nearby wall hook, Mrs. Suarez called out into the hall from the empty living room. We're home! Your unfortunate ears were slammed by the second sibling-caused commotion of that evening.
Derek's back!
Nicholas tore out of his bedroom and thundered across the floor until he had his arms gripped around his big brother's legs. Even with even with all the force 6-year-old Nicholas could muster, it was hardly a bump against Derek. He absorbed the impact calmly, giving his little sibling a pat on the head for his troubles. Yeah, we're back. The 2 remaining boys of the family came from the same room at a snail's pace in comparison to the firsts, but soon enough Mr. Suarez and George were with you too.
Welcome back.
Welcome home. George rubbed the growing sleepiness from one eye. He took in the scene with this undisguised confusion. Why is Hark here? Hi, George. Hi, I've come to visit. I'm sleeping over. You looked down and waited for someone to explain. What do you mean? I live here, you teased. I'll be like, I don't know if I would say that. I'm sleeping over. What? Mom? She answered matter-of-factly. Hark is staying over with us tonight. George clamped his mouth shut. He might have had something to say about the spur-of-the-moment plans and was obedient enough to not argue with his mother. He was smiling, though, at the end. He did have a smile on his face. Mr. Suarez, however, had a childlike glee in his expression. Oh, very good. Derek cut into his dad's excitement with a reply a little too soon. He had completely normal words to say, but had been put on fast forward. Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, we're going to camp out in the living room. Can we borrow the tent? Derek's hands were balled into fists and held up near his collarbone overzealously, kind of protectively. His father looked down at him with a familiar serene expression. You knew exactly where you'd seen it before when Mr. Suarez placed his hand on the top of Derek's head. He took care of Derek the same way Derek took care for Nicholas. Of course. And the gesture worked the exact same charm on Derek. His shoulders relaxed, his expression softened shyly, the pounding nerves that had been building faded. Camping? Nicholas shouted without warning. The entire exchange held no interest for the youngest one until that moment. That's right, Nico. Derek reached down and carefully placed his hands on Nicholas's shoulders to nudge him off. Nicholas went willingly, giddily repeating the same word, this time in amazed confirmation rather than as a question. Camping! With a thumbs up, Derek stood tall. The plan was in motion. Hark, you can put your bag down and sit if you'd want to. I'll go grab some other stuff. When moving past you, Derek took a second to lean in and whisper a lighthearted reassurance.
It's okay.
The little bros will go to bed before we do, and Mom is going to be watching them tomorrow. You're not here to babysit the whole time. Okay, cool. The whole group broke off into 3 sets. Derek ran to his room with Nicholas right on his heels, while Mr. and Mrs. Suarez left the space of the kids, returning to their own bedroom. You and George stayed where you were. George shuffled over to the kitchen counter to sit on a bar stool. He wasn't helping, but he wasn't getting in the way. Then you took your own seat on the couch and got to unpacking. The first thing you pulled out of the bag was your portable gaming console. You placed that on the coffee table for safekeeping. You kept busy sorting through it all until Derek returned with the goods. 2 pillows were under each of his arms. He had a few brightly patterned blankets draped over his shoulders, and the rope loop of a big nylon pack was hooked around one wrist. Nicholas supported the effort by carrying the one long pillow. He clutched it tight to his chest as best as he could, considering the pillow was about as long as his whole torso. Derek piled up the supplies on the opposite side of the couch from where you were. Nicholas opened his arms wide to let his pillow drop to the floor in a soft puff. It made Derek chuckle proudly.
Okay.
I'm gonna put together the tent. Nicholas, George, do you want to help?
I'll help.
I'll help.
I'm gonna put together the tent.
Thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas bounced around Derek in absolute eagerness. In the distance, George pushed away from the counter.
Yeah.
His expression was flat and wide-eyed, but there was a hopeful rise in his voice as he got up from the bar stool. I'm here too, remember? I'm helping. Let's do it. The declaration made you, Derek, Nicholas, and George get to work making heads and tails of the tent. Derek yanked open the clinched-in top of the pack while he walked to the furthest spot in the living room. Everyone followed his lead. He pushed the semicircle basket chair up against the edge of the counter wall so the tent could go there instead. Derek dumped the contents of the bag onto the cream rug. He leaned over on one foot while kicking the other in the air to reach over and grab the instructions that fell out with the rest of the materials. He scanned over the steps briefly, but it was only a refresher. Derek was able to get right into the process. Nicholas assigned pole control. He kept watch on the pile, not letting any roll away, and would pass the tent legs over when they were needed. Stretching the fabric out took the rest of you. You, George, and Derek each grabbed a side and tugged. Derek had to squeeze himself against the tall potted plant in the corner. He snickered at the way the leaves curled around his face. Despite that, you got the tent laid out across the ground. The first time Nicholas got to pass a pole, it slapped against the wall in the tiny space you were working in. George covered his ears and ducked. Derek snatched the end out of the air before it could do more damage. The little boy promised to be more careful. He got to keep his job and took it seriously. Piece by piece, the project slowly took shape until it was finally complete. The small, light gray tent sat in its full form, nestled in the nook of the living room.
Good job, team.
All right, good job, everybody. As if he'd yelled into a cave, an echo of his words followed after. Good job! Nicholas threw his hands in the air with joy. George simply smiled, satisfied. Thanks for the help, everyone. It's a beauty. You applauded success. I'm impressed we didn't break it. Good job. Thanks for the help, everyone. Derek stuck his fist into his hips and gave the team an encouraging grin. Now we can actually do the indoor camping part of this living room campout. Derek strolled up to the cabin in the corner. He pulled open the translucent doors to fiddle around with something inside. A poppy tune blared out. He turned on a CD player. Nicholas leapt onto the couch and swung his arms into the air to dance. George swayed his shoulders to bubblegum notes. Their big brother wasn't done yet. He made a beeline for the kitchen cupboard next. This time the mood setter Derek retrieved was a pillow-sized bag of puffy marshmallows. Oh yeah, Derek knows the way to my heart. Food. Catch! That was the only warning before he sent the marshmallow sailing across the room in a perfect arc. George managed to snatch it from the air without a problem. The top of the bag was twisted around and sealed with a blue clip. The open side was stretched from the process of twisting and untwisting repeatedly. It had been well appreciated so far. George undid the clip and set it aside on the coffee table, his tongue pressed against the corner of his lips as he dug his hand deep into the bag for just the right one. Nicholas tilted over from the cushion and into the bag to fill his tiny fist with 2 marshmallows. He crushed them between his fingers, the fluffy confection squeezing through the cracks. It really was a party. Derek put his hand on the cupboard handle and shouted to you over the music. Do you like marshmallows? They're not bad. Yeah, you plucked out of the bag and ate it at your answer. No, but thank you. Ew. You shook your head apologetically at your answer. Yeah, I'd like one, but I don't need any. I'm gonna eat a bunch. I said, I'll say, I'd like one. You grabbed one for nibbling. It wasn't something you wanted to eat most days, but this night was the right time for marshmallows. The cupboard door swung closed and nothing was there to obstruct your view of the bright grin on his face anymore. He finally joined the rest at the base camp, which was the couch at the moment. George, get me one of those too. Without even one warning, George simply flicked the marshmallow at his brother. And same as before, Derek grabbed it in midair. He bit one piece out of the top edge, chewing thoughtfully.
Okay.
There's no TV while camping, so having a sleepover movie wouldn't make sense. I don't know, I think camping out and watching a movie makes perfect sense to me. With a swallow, one of my fondest memories of when my family went camping. So we went to one of those camps where they do have outlets, those camp areas where they have like the single outlet, and they also is like a public bathroom. So yes, it isn't like hardcore camping, but my family isn't, we're not into glamping where we've got, you know, the motorhome and, you know, or are doing the cabin thing. We still pitch tents and we still cook things, you know, all over a fire and stuff. So we still do that, but the bathroom situation, definitely we prefer having like official bathrooms, public bathrooms. And I brought my Nintendo 64. Yes, this is the Nintendo 64 days with Mario Kart and a small television. And oh my gosh, playing video games outdoors, like out in the fresh air in the middle of the woods, unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was a beautiful experience. Awesome experience. One of my fondest childhood memories. With a swallow of a marshmallow and snap of his fingers, Derek emphatically declared a grand idea. We'll play an ad-lib game. I'll make up a story and the 3 of you can fill in some blanks to make it complete. George, I love ad-libs. George rolled a shoulder passively. He had finished off his first treat and was poking around for another perfect selection. Okay. Nicholas smiled a big white smile, but it wasn't just pearly teeth. His entire mouth was full of marshmallow mush. You took that reaction as a yes. The little ones were on board. Yeah, this is gonna be good. All right, let me think. We need a noun, a thing you can drive or ride on, a shape, a color, a food, and a drink. Nicholas gulped painfully, forcing down way too much marshmallow goop all at once, but he wouldn't let anyone beat him to the punch. A truck! A truck! Nicholas's eyes were wide. He was practically vibrating from the sugar high mixed with the chance to add a truck to the story. A truck! It's all about the truck. I'm looking at you, Kevin. Derek rubbed his back placatingly. That's the ride. George? The middle child plucked at the frayed plastic edge of the marshmallow bag. It might have taken him longer to come up with something than the youngest, but it did contribute an idea. Blue. Cool. We got a color. Hark. The noun is, the food is, the drink could be, I'll pick the shape it's, don't worry about me, let them choose. You quietly shook your head and hand to signal Derek to move past you. No. We are participating. I am a foodie. For the food, type in a food. It's going to be, okay, the Filipino in me wants to represent the food of my people. So I'm gonna type in Jollibees. So Jollibees, for those of you who do not know, is a fast food chain in the Philippines. It is essentially our McDonald's. It's everywhere. It is the most best known fast food chain in our country. And we do have a few Jollibees that have started popping up here in America, which I'm super excited about. And so we have burgers, but we also have pancit, which is like a Filipino noodle dish. We have Filipino spaghetti, which actually is a sweeter spaghetti. I think that's the most distinctive thing, is we do mix sugar in our spaghetti sauce because we like our sweet and savory dishes. And instead of meatballs, believe it or not, we put sliced hot dogs into our spaghetti. That might be polarizing for some of you, but there's a reason behind it. There's a practical reason, and that reason is we're a third world country. You know, we are not the wealthiest of people in the grand scheme of things. And raising like cows or beef basically in the Philippines is very expensive. Very, very expensive. However, raising chickens and pigs or pork is a lot cheaper. And hot dogs are cheaper for us than even ground beef. So that's why traditionally we use spaghetti just because of necessity. We use hot dogs in our spaghetti because of necessity, instead of with the meatballs that you might be used to. But anyway, one of my favorites is definitely like the peach mango pie. Those little peach mango hand pies are very big. I definitely need to check out the Jollibees that opened up recently near my neck of the woods, because I definitely love me some Jollibees. So anyway, that's Jollibees. Gotcha. He shifted his focus back to the boys. Derek's expression and the entire way he carried himself was different when speaking to them. It reminded you of a teacher interacting with the students. George, Nicholas, give me some more words. Hexagon.
Nice.
Oh, that good one. That's a shape. Apple juice.
Cool.
Perfect. There's a drink. Derek continued to warmly watch over his little siblings, but the words he spoke were for you. This is fun. I'm glad we got a chance to type in our own answers. Hark, you're giving us the last one. A noun. Yeah, the noun would be Derek's Derek's boyfriend. You know what? I'm good. I wanted to say Derek's boyfriend, but I'm gonna say boyfriend. I'm not subtle at all. I'm gonna type in boyfriend. His expression somehow softened even more. I'm wondering if that's a reaction to what I actually typed. If I said something, I'm wondering if if somehow the game is recognizing specific words. Would the game be looking for words like boyfriend? Because the fact that he softened is really interesting. I kind of want to test that out a little bit. Hold on, let me try boyfriend. Let me type Derek. Softened even more. I'm gonna say boyfriend. His expression somehow softened even more. Or let me just put a normal. Let me just put a normal, like, cat. Okay. You know what? No. I'm sticking with boyfriend. His expression somehow softened even more. Awesome. Derek pulled his chest back and folded his arms. He smirked, brows angled and eyes squinted. It almost makes me wonder if there is like a not safe for work list here, because I mean we're dealing with little kids. I feel like you have the freedom to type a lot of things, so I'm wondering if the game is looking out for NSWF, not safe for work, NSFW, not safe for work terms for the sake of the children. But I mean, I'm not gonna put anything that's not safe for work. So Derek pulled his chest back and folded his arms. He smirked, brows angled, and eyes squinted.
All right.
I can now tell you the story of Baby Castle. Nicholas stamped his feet rapidly to the couch. He was absolutely squealing from the premise alone. Baby Castle? Yeah, that's right. Baby Castle, do-do-do-do-do. Baby Castle, do-do-do-do-do. Baby Castle, do-do-do. Yeah, that's right. In a big open... I'm not going to sing the whole thing. In a big open field, there was the stone fortress that was Baby Castle. Everyone who lived there was a little baby, but they didn't need any adults. Their greatest treasure was a giant golden boyfriend. A giant golden boyfriend at the center of the courtyard. Why does the baby have a giant golden boyfriend? That doesn't seem very appropriate at all. They were always vigilant to protect it from the greedy hands of grown-ups. We must protect the golden boyfriend. Thy name is Derek. George snorted. His mouth and cheek began to pull upwards. He would snort. Then, one day, someone came to the gates of the castle on their truck. It was a man, not a baby or even a kid. He had a hexagon-shaped head and a fancy top hat. There's that hexagon. I think it would have been also amusing if he actually was like a golden Derek. There was a golden Derek in the middle of the courtyard. He was knocking on the door, demanding to be let in. They were just babies and they needed supervision. It was a blue alert. The blue alert, and the guards kept rushing to their stations. The first line of defense was their Jolly Bees catapult. How funny would it be though if you catapulted not necessarily like the Jolly Bee food, but if you actually catapulted swarms of Jolly Bees? That would have been so funny. It was loaded up and then fired. Bullseye! The Jolly Bees knocked the top hat off his head, but the hexagon-faced man wasn't deterred. He used his giant grown-up legs to climb over the wall. There was a panic in the castle. He had to be after their golden boyfriend! No! Not the baby's golden boyfriend! I'm so invested in this story. As you can tell, Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot with precision. His hands had gone up in front of him with his palms facing forward. He looked like the goalie of a soccer game. But the babies weren't beaten yet. The squirt gun battalion lined up, and as soon as the adult stepped foot on the other side, he was pelted with apple juice. He stumbled back and the gatekeepers opened the door while he was blinded. He got pushed right out and back onto the truck. The guards gave one more shove and the man with his truck, and without his hat, slid down the hill and far away. I love how George's expression this whole time is one of utter bewilderment. The castle was saved! The babies and their boyfriend were still free! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh. The babies and their boyfriend were still free. Hooray, the end. Oh my gosh, this is the best story ever. I'm so glad I got the noun. Masterpiece, Derek. I want to see the movie adaptation. Only if Derek is cast as the golden boyfriend that we must protect. That is boyfriends apparently with all of the babies in the castle. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. I find that hilarious. A matching pair of cheers filled the air. Nicholas and George were thrilled by the yarn Derek had spun for them. I think that was something else. You applauded the grand conclusion of the tale of Baby Castle too. It was a pretty dumb story, but very cute how Derek could entertain his brothers. You snickered in your hand, just as amused as George and Nicholas. It honestly impressed you how well Derek could improvise. The whole thing seemed really juvenile. I was impressed. I'm very impressed. He has a guy of many talents, which is very attractive. The living room campsite blowout kept rolling from there. Derek turned the music up louder, making sure to skip any track that didn't fit the mood. George and Nicholas swung across the floor to dance. They threw marshmallows in the air and tried catching them with their mouths, and when that got old, they tried to see who could fit the most in their mouth at one time. Derek grooved to the beat and tapped his toes around as he collected the treats they missed, picked up the pillows they knocked to the floor, and patted backs when their stuffed faces made them cough. But he wasn't only Mr. Responsible. Derek took his own shot at the marshmallow mouthful competition and blew his little brothers out of the water. You danced along with the boys. You were a new challenger in the marshmallow game. You threw your own marshmallows in the air. You took a turn telling your own ad-lib story. I would have done this and this. I love storytelling, so I probably would have done you took a turn telling your own ad-lib story. It was a heart-wrenching tale of love, loss, revenge, and potted plants, thanks to George's suggestion. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when in the end your hero wilted, and every leaf fell. As the night continued, Derek moved on from the party hotspot to chill out inside the tent. He was on his side, propped up by his elbow. It took a few minutes for Nicholas to notice his brother's disappearance from his sight lines. You knew the moment it happened. He'd been bounding from cushion to cushion on the couch, but came to a firm stop, sticking his feet deep in place. A helpless pout flickered on Nicholas's face, before it almost instantly curved into a sly grin. Nicholas knew where he could find his favorite person. He leapt from the arm of the couch to land at the entrance of the tent. From there, he sprung forward like a shot straight into Derek, shoving him over into his back with an oof. Derek didn't get up. He flopped his arm out and laid motionless. 3, 2, 1. Derek was down for the count. Nicholas was the winner. Claiming his victory, Nicholas curled up on Derek's flattened chest. He tuckered himself out. You sat stretched out on the blanket inside the tent. You sat balled up on the blanket inside the tent. You lay down on the blanket inside the tent. You sat stretched out on the floor near the tent. You sat balled up on the floor near the tent. You lay down on the floor near the tent. You sat stretched out on the blanket. You laid down on the blanket inside the tent. I'm gonna say you laid down on the blanket inside the tent. George wandered over to sit around cross-legged. He had one shoulder in the tent, and the rest of him was out. Derek's eyes drooped closed, and he heaved a satisfied sigh.
Sheesh.
I'm too old to keep up with you, bros. You can party way harder than me. He could still muster enough energy to move a hand over his brother's fluffy, marshmallow-speckled hair. The little boy snuggled his cheek into Derek's jersey even more. Still cross-legged, George took hold of his ankles and rocketed himself gently back and forward. The childlike position conflicted how contemplative his next words were.
I wonder what things will be like when we really are older.
We won't have to wonder for too long. We have 5 more moments before we get to that point. The brother with the most days behind him smiled softly while his eyes remained shut. That's easy. 10 years from now, I'm gonna be a famous athlete. Nicholas will obviously be the cheer captain at all my games. Derek earned a squealing giggle from Nicholas. He even kicked the leg out like a puppy who got a tummy scratch. George, you'll be my career manager. That all sounds so fitting. George stopped his movement, sitting a little taller. A smile pulled at the edges of his mouth.
Obviously.
Hark will be there too, as his husband. Well, let's see. We would be like, what? Would be, or maybe fiance. Maybe fiance. That perks your own interest. Yeah, I'll be on the same sports team, whatever it is. I'm not playing sports. I'll be Derek's trophy husband. I would? What would I be doing? Oh yeah, I'll be on the competing team, whatever it is. I'll take care of the merchandising. You waited for him to keep going. I'll be Derek's trophy husband. Derek coughed unintentionally as soon as you said your contribution to the master plan, but he rolled with it. Right, it's the best trophy I ever won. Top of the shelf. He does know how to improvise. He's very good, like, on the spot. Then his voice drifted off quietly. And the 4 of us would all be neighbors. Your heart skipped a beat. Neighbors, eh? I don't know, I think you and I would be living under the same roof. He wanted to live next to you. He wanted you to be a part of his future. Just next to me? Derek, George, and Nicholas. You glanced at each of their faces and felt glad you got to be here. You went to different schools, lived in different towns, had different families, but sometimes you were able to share your worlds with each other. And maybe someday Derek's story would come true, and you'd be even closer. But that time wasn't now, and all too soon, the Suarez parents reappeared to take their younger children off for bed in their own room. Despite nearly being asleep already, Nicholas grasped Derek's shirt when his dad reached in to pick him up. Derek kept his one hand on Nicholas's head and pressed the other against the floor, slowly shifting into a sitting position.